That's a good one.
You ever walk into a movie thinking it's one thing and then it turns into something entirely different? That's what happened when I saw The Surfer starring Nicolas Cage. I heard the buzz, film festival chatter, critics dropping into conversations. It even showed up at the Florida Film Festival, and one critic nudged me to check it out. So I carved out some time, went in cold. No trailers, no spoilers, and I walked straight into what turned out to be a full-blown Ozploitation homage. Not exploitation, Ozploitation, as in gritty, offbeat Australian cinema from the 70s and 80s. Think Mad Max before it went Hollywood. Think Wake and Fright, Razorback, Long Weekend. Films drenched in heat and isolation and masculinity and the kind of madness that seems baked into the landscape. These movies had shoestring budgets, but a wild visual and emotional ambition that made them unforgettable. They were raw, confrontational, and unpredictable. And The Surfer fits that mold, almost obsessively. The director, Lorcan Finnegan, who made Vivarium with Jesse Eisenberg, so he's not exactly a conventional storyteller. He leans hard into the vintage Ozploitation energy. He sets the whole thing on a single stretch of coastal parking lot in Australia, one location. Sand, salt, and sunburn. The premise? Nicolas Cage's character wants to surf the beach near his childhood home with his son. That's it. That's the narrative spine. But the film spirals from there into something metaphorical, surreal, and often maddening. There's no surfing. Let me just put it out there. Just shots of people surfing in the distance. You go in expecting Cage to paddle out, catch a wave, and maybe scream into the wind. Yeah, that doesn't happen. Instead, you're stuck in a parking lot with this man slowly unraveling while local beachgoers, surfers, and enforcers taunt and torment him in ways that border on psychological horror. It's Kafka by the way of Gold Coast. And look, there's a long tradition using genre as a vehicle for existential crisis. And The Surfer joins that club, but it does so with such heavy hand, you start to question your own grip on reality. Is it a fever dream? Is it a hallucination? Is it all performance art about masculinity and control? The film doesn't clarify. At times it feels like it's intentionally disorienting, like cinematic version of standing too close to the bonfire. And there's heat, there's smoke and noise, but you're not quite sure where the flame starts and ends. And that's the gamble Finnegan makes here. He throws a lot of ideas at the wall. The failure of legacy, the fragility of the male ego, identity, collapse, spiritual rebirth through pain, and then he steps back. No safety rails, no subtitles. The result, you're either locked in for the ride of chaos or you bounce off hard, and that brings us back to Cage. Because in the middle of all this mess, there's Cage, sunburnt, bloodied, and spiraling. There's no irony to his performance. He's not doing meta Cage. He's doing a raw, stripped-down portrait of a man unraveling in real time. No surfing required. Just pain, sunstroke, and psychological erosion. You feel every second of his breakdown. You might not understand it, but you feel it. Now, stylistically, this is a film that feels more at home in a grimy art house theater with sticky floors and torn seats, somewhere where you expect a power outage halfway through the third act. Watching it in a modern stadium-seated megaplex felt off. The Surfer is a relic, or at least a tribute to one. It wants you uncomfortable, which raises the question, who is this for? Because if you walk in expecting a beach drama or even a proper surfing movie, you're going to be widely disappointed. This isn't Point Break. It's not even Big Wednesday. It's a slow burn psychological fable disguised as genre pulp. And if you're not familiar with Ozploitation, or if you're not a fan of experimental storytelling, The Surfer can come off as incoherent or just plain frustrating. But for cinephiles, for young filmmakers, for students of cinema looking to understand how location, mood, and tone can do heavy narrative lifting, The Surfer is a fascinating case study. It shows what's possible with minimal resources and maximal ambition. The entire film, more or less, happens in a beach parking lot, and that's the set, one location, and it still manages to feel expansive, alienating, and mythic. So yes, it's flawed. It's overstuffed with metaphors. It meanders. It intentionally withholds satisfaction. It revives a genre most of us have forgotten, and it doesn't care whether you come along for the ride. And there's something admirable about that. Would I recommend it to everybody? Absolutely not. But would I recommend it to filmmakers, cinephiles, or anyone curious about what happens when a narrative gets turned inside out? Definitely. The Surfer isn't a ride. It's a reckoning. Thanks for going on this film journey with me, and as always, be real.
Locals only. Don't live here, don't surf here.
I'm not surfing.